Hello, Facebook friends. Welcome to Austin Dental Spa's Wisdom Wednesday. If you've tuned in before, you know a little bit about this. Every week here from Austin Dental Spa, I'm Mark Sweeney, the founder and owner of Austin Dental Spa. Every Wednesday about this time, we do Wisdom Wednesday for about 7 years running now. And we usually try to scour the medical and dental literature and find some of the newest research. A couple of weeks ago, we scooped the Wall Street Journal with one of our stories, but we're made to do this again today because we're talking about some very cutting-edge research out of Stanford University, those really smart people. But before we get into that, why am I wearing all this stuff? Well, because every month we have a new theme for the month, and the theme for September is Ready, Sept, Go. You caught that little change in the wording, but that's going to be our theme for the whole month of September. As you know, we were not here last Wednesday because we were at the Gala Awards for the Community Best of Awards, and we were up in both categories. We were number 3, in the top 3 in both Best Dentist and Best Cosmetic Dentist, and we got humbled a little bit. A fairly new young dentist over in East Austin with a great marketing plan and a very big personality edged us out in both categories. So it gave us, my whole team was there, and it gave us some room for humility and to realize, okay, we got to get the vote out next year. We've got 45 years worth of this, and we've won at least one of, or not both categories every year. So believe me, you're going to be hearing from me again next May, June, when the voting starts again, because that guy's not taking home the prize next year. So, but congratulations this year to Union Dental, because they ran a great campaign and they were organized and they got it done. And we slacked off a little bit, honestly. So today we're going to talk about our scientific thing is, you know, the difference between RNA and DNA. Our DNA is inside the nucleus of your cell, and RNA, and especially mRNA, got a lot of bad raps for the COVID vaccines, had mRNA, which is messenger RNA. The RNA is half of a DNA molecule. Most of you know DNA molecules are double helixes, and an RNA is half of that. And the RNA in cells, when I was taking chemistry, they taught us that RNA goes from the nucleus of the cell out into the other parts of the cell and tells the different parts of the cell what kind of proteins to make for different functions. Well, now they know a whole lot more about RNA, and they've discovered this new type of, we don't even know exactly what to call it. It's not a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's not a living organism. So like a virus, it depends on taking over a cell, on breaking through the cell wall and taking over a full cell with DNA in it in order to replicate itself. And they didn't know what to call it, so they came up with this name because of the shape of it, because it's kind of an oblong, almost like a hot dog shape. And the scientists at Stanford decided to name these things obelisks. And then they found that the human body, in our gut microbiome, which we've talked about plenty of times in Wisdom Wednesdays, and how that regulates your immune system, helps you digest your food, can do all kinds of things for your body. But for the purposes of today, we're talking about these obelisks that people have never been able to discover before because they couldn't see down to those small particles. And these scientists are just now starting to talk about these obelisks and what the heck do they do in the human body, and what are they doing there to begin with, because nothing is there by accident unless you swallowed a penny or something. But anyway, these obelisks, they're just now starting to study them and try to figure out what's going on, because like I said, RNA usually does something very different than these obelisks do, but they do have RNA in them, a single strand of what in a DNA would be a double helix. They're very similar to obelisks are similar to what scientists already knew about. These other cells called viroids, which are not really cells. They're like viruses. Viruses are not living organisms. The flu vaccine, all those things, the flu is a virus, and viruses require getting into living cells in order to continue to live. So these viroids, they found, get into bacterial cells, and so they're gonna, in the next couple of years, I think, come out with all kinds of interesting information about what these obelisks do. But they're the first viroid-like elements to be detected in bacterial cells rather than in the cells of more complex organisms. They haven't found them in mammals yet, other than inside of our intestinal tract, but they don't get into our bodies as far as we know yet. So keep an eye out for these obelisks, and what would an infection look like if you got an obelisk infection. But I think we're going to understand this a whole lot more in the coming years. So that's my health information for today. Sorry I can't tell you more about it, because the Stanford guys, as smart as they are, just don't know quite what to make of this yet, except they know that they've identified this brand new particle. My health tip for those of you runners out there, you know what these things are, wearing all this to absorb the sweat. Well, it is cooling off, so a lot of people, including me, are thinking about starting to get out and exercise again. I'm more of a bicyclist than a runner. My knee replacement a couple of years ago pretty much stopped my running career. But here's 5 well-known things you should do if you're considering getting back into running now that we've got cooler temperatures. First of all, stretch and warm up. It's important in every sport, but especially in running. Most of the big running competitions, I walked the 10K last year during the Austin Marathon because one of my young K-team dentists ran the marathon, and the other one and her boyfriend ran the 10K, and I ran about 200 yards and then walked the rest of the 10K because that's how much of a non-runner I am now. Now, if it hadn't been on a bicycle, I could have torn it up. Anyway, I saw all these runners stretching, putting their legs up on the side of the buildings and doing all kinds of stretching. And then I saw some people that were drinking their coffee and not stretching at all. Those were the ones that were walking it like me. But that's first, stretch, warm up. Secondly, start small. If I were starting to run again, when I started getting ready for the 10K, I told my marathoner that, she said, have you started running yet? Have you started kind of like getting into running shape? I said, yeah. She said, really? I said, yeah. Last week I ran a block, and I increased it this week. I ran a block in a mailbox. So start small and work your way up, and that's the way to do it. Don't go out and try to run the whole 5-mile hike and bike trail today. You won't be running again for a while. People do that with working out with weights. They go to the gym and they pump till they can't pump anymore, and then they're sore for 3 or 4 more days, and they can't even sit down in a chair without pain, and then they don't want to work out again because they're demotivated because it hurts. So if you do it a little bit at a time, you'll work your way into shape. Number 3, you're going to get sick of this. Wisdom Wednesday, we bring this up regularly. Number 3 and number 4, eat well and sleep well. Can't tell you how important that is. Massive amounts of research have been done on both these subjects. When you're running, you're sweating, so you're losing moisture, but you're also, so you're not only worried about dehydration, but you're also burning a lot of calories. So you need to eat enough to counteract that, unless you're trying to do it to lose weight, and then you want to watch your caloric content. But eat right, not just eating a lot of food, but eat well, and then sleep well. 7-8 hours of sleep minimum per night. More than that, if you're one of those people who really needs to get more than that, you know who you are out there. And then number 5, I mentioned that already, stay hydrated. When I was bicycling a lot, they used to tell us, drink before you're thirsty and eat before you're hungry. Because if you wait until you hit that point where in bicycling we call it bonking, where you were completely dehydrated and getting dizzy, and you actually stop sweating, you're on the verge of heat exhaustion and then heat stroke. And that can be fatal. So you want to be careful if you're going to start an exercise program now that it's cooled off a little bit, to stay hydrated. Drinking a lot of water is probably the most important of all 5 of those things. So that's my health tips for the week. I hope you got something out of the Stanford research. We'll be back next week with some more, hopefully exciting, ready, set, go, and I'll see you next week with my warm-up stuff on. So long till next Wednesday.